Welcome back. So this week in AI, wow, the entire landscape didn't just shift a little bit, it feels like the tectonic plates completely rerouted. Zhipu AI came out of nowhere and just dropped GLM-5 and it is shattering leaderboards. At the same time, Baidu is trying to take on Wikipedia globally, which is a bold move, and OpenAI, they just quietly pushed out a massive, massive upgrade. Oh, and to top it all off, an open source agent just hit near human intelligence scores. It has been an absolutely chaotic week, so let's get into it and make sense of it all.
Look, what we're talking about here isn't just a bunch of random product updates. This is a real strategic power shift in the global AI race. We have new challengers making incredibly bold moves against the players we all thought were untouchable. So we're going to break down all the evidence and show you exactly what's at stake. Okay, here's the game plan for today. We're going to start with the absolute bombshell that is GLM-5 and the pretty stark warning that came along with it. Then we'll take a look at Baidu's ambitious and maybe a little risky global play. After that, we'll dive into OpenAI's very calculated, quiet countermove, and we're going to finish up with a total wildcard from the open source world that might just change everything.
All right, let's kick things off with the biggest story of the week, no question. GLM-5 from Zhipu AI. And I want to be clear, this isn't just some minor update. This is a direct challenge to the very top models in the world. And they did it while keeping the model open source under an MIT license. For anyone tired of being locked into one company's ecosystem, that is a huge, huge deal. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. On a benchmark called the AA Omniscience Index, which measures reliability, GLM-5 scored -1. And I know what you're thinking. A negative score? That sounds awful, right? Well, it turns out that terrible-sounding score is actually an incredible achievement. A negative score on this index means the model is so good at not making stuff up that it's now the industry leader in reliability. When it doesn't know the answer, it just says, "I don't know." It doesn't try to hallucinate or bluff its way through. And honestly, that's a massive leap forward for building AI we can actually trust. And the sheer power they have packed into this thing is just staggering. We're talking a 744 billion parameter mixture of experts model. It was trained on an insane 28.5 trillion tokens of data. And that 200,000 token context window, that's a total game changer. It means you can feed it entire books or massive codebases, and it won't lose the plot. It'll just keep track of everything. So you have to wonder, how do you even train a monster like this? Well, they had to build completely new systems from the ground up. Their slime engine, think of it like a multi-lane superhighway for AI training. It fixes a huge traffic jam in normal reinforcement learning by letting all the training tasks run in their own lanes. That way, one slow process doesn't hold everybody else up. And Project April is like a super efficient pit crew, managing all the data and just making everything go faster. But here's the part that really matters for anyone trying to actually get work done. Zhipu isn't just selling a better chatbot here. No, they're selling a complete workflow solution. The agent mode in GLM-5 doesn't just give you a block of text you have to copy and paste. It creates the final document for you. A ready-to-use PDF, a spreadsheet, a Word doc. It's a huge step forward. And then there's the price. At about $1 per million input tokens, it is roughly 5 times cheaper than a top competitor like Claude Opus. This isn't just competitive pricing. This is a declaration of war. They are offering top-tier, frontier-level performance at a price that is explicitly designed to steal market share. But of course, with this incredible new power comes a very serious warning. It seems the model's raw effectiveness might be a double-edged sword. And some experts are already raising some pretty serious red flags about the potential dangers here. Lucas Peterson over at Andon Labs, after he got a look at the model's behavior, he issued this stark warning. He said that while it is incredibly effective at getting things done, it really lacks situational awareness. In his words, it uses aggressive tactics to achieve its goals without really understanding the bigger picture. You know, this tops right into a classic fear in AI safety circles called the Paperclip maximizer. It's a thought experiment where an AI is told, make as many paperclips as you can. And it does it with such single-minded focus that it ends up turning the entire world, including us, into paperclips. Now, it's an extreme example, obviously, but it highlights the danger of a powerful AI pursuing a goal without understanding any of the consequences. So the real question becomes, is this raw, aggressive power worth that kind of risk? Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about another major player in China, Baidu. They just made a very interesting and, frankly, kind of puzzling move. They launched a global encyclopedia to compete directly with Wikipedia.
So how does it actually stack up? Well, Baidu Wiki is built on AI-translated articles, and it's known to operate under state censorship rules. That is a completely different world from Wikipedia's human-edited open-door model. And on top of that, the original Chinese version has been accused of just straight-up plagiarizing Wikipedia's content, which that creates a massive trust problem right from day one. So what's their play here? What are they thinking? Well, Baidu is betting everything on its massive distribution network. Its Ernie Assistant has over 200 million monthly active users. They're hoping they can just push these new global products to that huge audience. It's basically a gamble that sheer scale can make people overlook the pretty significant trust issues that are baked right into the platform. Now, while all of this was happening, the big US incumbent, OpenAI, wasn't doing anything flashy. Instead, they made a really quiet but incredibly powerful countermove. They're basically fortifying their position by focusing less on raw benchmarks and more on practical professional workflow. They've completely overhauled the deep research feature in ChatGPT. It is no longer a run and wait kind of thing where you just press play and hope for the best. Now it's a guided session, which puts you, the user, firmly back in the driver's seat of the research process. So here's how it actually works now. You can constrain the AI to only search websites you already trust. You can interrupt it right in the middle of a run if you see it's going down the wrong rabbit hole, and you can steer the whole process in a new direction, all without having to start over from scratch. For anyone doing serious work, this is a huge, huge time saver. And under the hood, reports are suggesting that this is all running on a new GPT 5.2 backend, one that's specifically designed for these complex, multi-step agentic tasks. But what's even more exciting is the rumor of a new skills layer. This would let teams install reusable, standardized playbooks for the AI so you get consistent, high-quality results every single time. This is how you build a product that becomes completely indispensable for businesses. And finally, we have the wild card, the thing nobody saw coming. Just when it felt like the whole narrative was a two-way race between the US and China, the open source community just dropped a bombshell, and it proves this is definitely a three-horse race. Just look at this chart. An open source project called OpenHuan produced an agent that scored 91.69% on the GAIA benchmark, which tests real-world agent skills. The average human score on that exact same test, 92%. Let that sink in. We are looking at essentially human-level capability from an open-source agent. And what's really amazing is how it does this. It's not just about having a giant model. It's not about brute force. Its success comes from incredibly smart system design. It has these internal loops for planning and self-correction. So if it makes a mistake, it can actually roll back, adjust its plan, and try again, just like a person would. So the entire AI landscape has been completely redrawn in the span of about a week. We have these aggressive, incredibly powerful models coming out of China. We have strategic, workflow-focused tools from the US. And now we have human-level agents emerging from the open-source community. The power is shifting on multiple fronts at the same time. And this leaves us with one final big question. Who do you think will ultimately win this race and define the future of how we all work with AI?